Hello and welcome everyone to the second episode of the playthrough of Captain of Industry on the map You Shall Not Pass on standard difficulty. In the previous episode we have established more or less self-sufficient settlement with the production of tier 2 construction materials, tier 1 science packs, maintenance and some basic food production with potatoes and vegetables. The most important achievement was this ramp, which allowed us to reach the upper surface, where we can actually start expanding. But before we can build anything here, we need to level the surface. As you can see, the surface here is uneven. There is some layers of dirt which need to be removed first. So this was my first task, designate some area to make this area flat so that I can build here farms in the future. And of course, I also need to remove these trees to be able to build anything. After that, I started preparations to set up the oil refinery. It was already bigger than the basic oil refinery I have showed in the previous episode, but it was still a temporary oil refinery. So it all started with the dock, which I have built on the expanded shoreline near the main dock, and the seawater pump to provide me some water to kickstart the refining process. I equipped this first cargo dock with 4 liquid terminals so that it is capable of accepting oil, and initiated the process of repairing the first oil rig. The outputs of all 4 terminals were balanced to ensure that they are consumed evenly. The refinery itself was pretty standard. It consisted of the basic water desalinator, gas boiler, and 2 stage 1 and 2 stage 2 refineries. Additionally, this setup required the coal boiler to kickstart the process to get this initial steam, which will get us then heavy and light oil, which could be used to further produce more steam. While I slowly designed the oil refinery, my excavators and trucks finally have cleared some area on the upper platform, and I have built the first irrigated farm. The source of water for this farm were rain collectors. I used rain collectors as water source for all my farms essentially in the future until I had a nuclear reactor. At this point the natural oil reserve was already almost empty, so I demolished it and started the new oil refinery, where I was also able to afford the bigger electricity generating setup. As soon as I had space, I have built more rain collectors for my irrigated farm, and I have found empirically that for potatoes and vegetables, 6 rain collectors for one farm will be enough. For more water-hungry crops like wheat and corn and some sugar canes, you need more rain collectors, sometimes 8 or even 10. After being done with the farm, it was time to finish the steel production so that it actually produces steel. Having steel and having setting up the basic production of tier 3 construction materials, I was able to start the process of reclaiming the sour water, which was produced by the oil refining process. At this point, the research allowed me to build the first important utility for my settlement, which is water supply. Without research, the settlement requires a relatively big amount of water. That's why I decided to take water from the underground water deposit, which is located on the upper surface, which I have recently reached. These underground water deposits, they usually can support uninterrupted up to 4 underground water pumps. So this translates to 192 water per minute. So these underground water deposits can supply 192 water per minute without being depleted. This is of course on Captain difficulty. On Admiral difficulty, where the weather is dry, so we have fewer rain, these underground water deposits, they will probably supply less water, but I'm not sure exactly how much. And as you can see in the video, the water was supplied via pipe, and I have built this pipe all the way from the upper platform all the way to the settlement. And I will use this approach in the future to supply the settlement with all other necessary resources like different types of food, furniture, household appliances, medical supplies and electronics, consumer electronics. Since I didn't have the recycling of the wastewater researched yet, I just dumped the wastewater produced by the settlement into the ocean. Like, what could go wrong, right? At this point I was still using diesel power generators, but at least the research allowed me to upgrade small generators into big generators, which were more efficient. And speaking of efficiency, I started preparations to switch the production of mechanical parts to the more efficient recipe, which used steel plates. For that I demolished production of iron plates, at least part of it, and instead I rebuilt it as the production of steel plates. And while I was doing all the previous stuff, my excavators and trucks have finally cleared more area so that I could build the second irrigated farm. And the next major milestone was to build the production of tier 2 vehicle parts so that I can create bigger trucks and excavators. But since the production of glass was not researched yet, but the glass was required for tier 2 vehicle production parts, I needed to buy it in order to build bigger trucks and excavators. But I decided that I want bigger excavators now because they have roughly 3 times bigger digging rate than small excavators, which was necessary to speed up my mining and leveling of the surface on the upper platform. You can also see that I have set up a system where I would recycle tier 1 vehicle parts from older vehicles so that they will be prioritized for construction of tier 2 vehicle parts before raw materials would be used to construct tier 1 vehicle parts. So after connecting the conveyors with all necessary resources and building the tier 2 vehicle construction depot, it was finally time to start building new excavators. Another important efficiency-related upgrade was to switch the electrolysis of copper from using water into using sulfuric acid, which resulted in more copper plates for the same amount of copper ore. At this point, it was finally time to start building the proper setup to generate electricity, namely using coal boilers and steam turbines. I have decided to build this setup on the upper platform to the right of the big coal patch. So I will leave here the short time lapse of how I built this setup. Enjoy! So eventually this coal power station was finished and I was able to demolish the old diesel power generators, and that also meant that I could afford now more trucks and excavators with my current diesel production. And speaking of the efficiency of my trucks and overall diesel consumption, I have finally found time to add the conveyor belts to deliver potatoes and vegetables from my farms directly to the settlement without trucks. Later, when I checked how to produce tier 2 science specs, I realized that in this version of the game, developers allowed us to burn wood and produce steam. And this gave me an idea that I can actually use wood as an infinite and renewable source to produce electricity using my steam generator setup. The only question which I needed to clarify to achieve this is how big should be the forest where I would harvest wood for the power generation. And together with that, I realized that I could already build the recycling plant, so I have built it and started planning the conveyors to deliver scrap iron and scrap copper to the respective smelting facilities. After recycling plant, I proceeded with building of the production facility for Tier 2 science specs. So Tier 2 science specs, they require Tier 1 science specs, which I have already production of them established. Then they require steel and paper. Steel I also already have, so this is not an issue. And I just needed to establish the production of paper. In principle, it is relatively simple. You just need some wood chips, some limestone, and steam. Limestone can be easily imported by trucks. Wood chips, they are easily created from wood in a shredder. And steam, well, steam can be generated in a boiler. And here the question was, what do I want to burn to generate steam? And the easiest solution is I would burn wood chips, which I produce already here, and I use them already here. So I will generate some wood chips. A small portion of them will go for steam generation, and then the major portion will go directly into this chemical plant to produce paper. In this way of steam generation by burning wood chips, I will use this to generate steam for my electricity production. One of the challenges of this map is the complete absence of convenient places to place cargo docks. So, as you can see, this upper area on this map, on this island, has a lot of free space where you can build big industries and big production chains, but there are very high cliffs to the ocean, so you cannot really place anywhere. You cannot really place cargo docks anywhere nearby. That's why I decided to create my own area to place cargo docks by creating this long ramp from the upper surface directly into the ocean, and then creating some flat platform at the ocean where I could place cargo docks. In the future, this particular area will be used for the delivery of oil for the big chemical production. Meanwhile, I was busy with other things. My trucks and excavators already cleared enough area so that I could expand my farm, built with the third irrigated farm, where I produced some vegetables, potatoes, and also corn. Speaking of inconvenient shorelines, as you can see, I have already expanded the left and the right side of the shoreline near the settlement, so I also needed to expand the middle section. To do that, I have built a new shipyard and demolished the old one, and also I have moved the wastewater dump closer to the new shipyard and designated this area to also be filled with rock, slag, and dirt. And this area will be used in the future for the expansion of the settlement, because we will need a lot of new houses, because we will need much more people than we have now, and for houses we need space, and we can only win this space by moving the ocean backwards. After waiting for some time, I have finally researched low pressure steam turbines. So this was time to upgrade my electrical setup, where I demolished the generators, the gyroscope wheels, and the cooling towers, so that I could place new turbines, and then I could place new cooling towers in a new position. This essentially allowed me to generate more electricity from the same input. As you can see, I still have 10 megawatts of electricity power generated, even though I have just demolished all my generators. So you may ask where this power comes from. This power comes from the two backup big diesel generators, which are still there near the diesel production setup. I remember that I said that I have demolished these generators, but then I realized that it's actually a good practice to keep these diesel generators as a backup option in case something goes wrong with the main power station. And in this case, nothing goes wrong, but still the main power station doesn't function because it is being upgraded. I will speed up the video now to let you quickly see how this upgrade was finished, and then I will explain how I also set up production of new fuel for this power station, which was completely renewable and infinite. When the upgrade was finished, I started implementing my idea to use wood, or specifically wood chips, as fuel source for the steam generation and for electricity generation instead of coal. Wood in this game is technically infinite and almost free. So to produce wood you need just water for 3 saplings and some small amounts of diesel fuel for 3 planters, 3 harvesters and trucks. So wood is not 100% free resource, but it's like almost free if you consider also diesel. To produce enough wood, I need to consider how much wood chips I need for the steam generation. The recipe in the boiler requires 48 wood chips per minute to produce 48 steam per minute, a high pressure steam. So I have 2 boilers, and for this power generation setup I need 96 wood chips per minute. So there is a one-to-one conversion from wood to wood chips, so I would need 96 wood per minute. I have checked Captain of Industry wiki, where I saw some smart people already did the calculations, where I have also found that to produce 96 wood per minute requires 4.8 saplings per minute and will require almost 2000 designation tiles of tree planting area. This is very important. So essentially, to produce enough wood, I just need a big enough planting area. As you can see here, I have designated 924 designation tiles. So this is roughly 1/2 of what is needed for the 96 wood per minute production. So essentially, this area, which I have just designated here on screen, would be enough to produce 12 megawatts of power, which is like 50% of what this power station is capable of. So this power station can generate maximum 24 megawatt of power. So, and this was good enough for me. I decided not to build this area bigger, just because it was not necessary at the time. The actual consumption of electricity was lower than even 12 megawatts. You can see it's around like 6 or 8 megawatts right now. Yeah, so the only thing I want to add here is that one farm of 3 saplings was not enough. So I added the second farm as soon as I cleared this area from trees, and I then just built some simple wood storage and 4 shredders to convert wood into wood chips. So when I have finished this setup, I realized that its main advantage is not that it reduced my consumption of coal for electricity production almost to 0, but that this free and infinite electricity has actually allowed me to expand my factory almost carefree, which I will demonstrate in the next episodes. So if you like the content, please subscribe and like the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!